The United States is warning of China's chokehold on poor countries, including Ghana, many of which are heavily indebted to the Asian country. According to a 2023 report presented to Congress, China's coercive financial aid and loans targeted at poor and developing countries is part of a larger plot to gain control of global politics. The report says over the past 10 years, China has used a mixture of persuasive and coercive tactics, achieving mixed success depending on several characteristics, including what the U.S. says is the liberal democratic climate of the country. The U.S. also warns of manipulative economic relief and China's unwillingness to offer debt relief to distressed borrowers like those from African countries. Right now, Ghana's total Chinese loans stand at over $31 billion, and that's since 2004, making the country one of 51 reeling under the effects of owing the Chinese government as our IMF second tranche bailout remains in limbo. Now, according to the report, despite repeated requests by the U.S., World Bank, the IMF, and other democratic and developed partners, China refuses to offer broad and substantial debt relief or restructuring to developing countries in distress. Let's have a quick chat on this with economist Dr. Patrick Esuming. Thank you so much for your time here, Doc. Good afternoon to you. But we look at the 51 countries, 18 of them medium to high risk of external default or distress. We also know that 12 are of high risk of same. Is the U.S. crying more than the bereaved?
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to viewers. Thanks for having me. I don't know about crying more than the bereaved. I think that China's investment across the continent has definitely grown, and there's been situations where some of those have come under question, and some of the policy, the Chinese policy around lending and also the debt relief, those are issues that have come up. I think that you always have to understand when a report of this nature comes out, this is not a report written by a neutral author. This is a report written for the U.S. Congress for a specific reason. I think so. You always have to read in between. I think some of the language and some of the tone clearly points out that, it is not a report written by an independent source.
I see. So we note the U.S. interest there, but let's talk specifically about the Ghana case. Right now, the country is still awaiting a second tranche of funds released from the IMF program. But we also know that the U.S. has consistently said, and is captured in the report, the fact that the Chinese government is refusing to renegotiate some of its loan and give some kind of debt relief to countries like ours. On the other hand, we have the IMF that is asking us to restructure our loan. How are you linking both information?
So, if you talk about specifically in relation to our IMF negotiations, I think China, because of the volume of our debt to China, I think China is a very important player. And over the course of last week, we've seen that disagreement from the Chinese side, disagreement between Ghana and China on the debt cutoff period has been one of the reasons why there's been a delay in reaching an agreement. So I think we have to understand that the Chinese have their own position. And in Ghana's case, the amount, this debate about cutoff, whether it's start of 2020 or end of 2022, in Ghana's case, it has really big impact on what our debt position will be. So when you look at it, and also you put together what has happened with the Zambian case, it clearly shows you that sometimes there isn't alignment. But we can't put all of this on China. Don't forget that the Chinese have their interests, and the Western partners also have their interests. So when sometimes it gets very difficult because of some background tensions to get an agreement. So there is some link. There's some truth definitely in that. Definitely in Ghana's case, I think. But you can't put all of it on China. I think there are different parties that are negotiating, and if there's no agreement, sometimes you can't blame only on one side.
I see. And just before we let you go, we know that these countries, like ours, need the money that they're getting from the Chinese government. On the other hand, we also realize, despite U.S. interest, that some of these loans could be very persuasive and manipulative. What can African countries do in their engagements with the Chinese government?
I think the issue of persuasive deals to achieve a country's specific long-term interest is not limited to the Chinese. When the US or the Europeans give loans, they also have their own long-term strategic interest. So I don't think we should make it seem like it's something specific to the Chinese. But what is important is that whether individually or as a group, Africans, we have to have our own clear strategy. Right now, Africa, there's some sort of additional increased attention on Africa because of the mineral wealth and then some of the things that we need for the green revolution. So there's increased attention on Africa. It's important that we have our own strategy so that when we are dealing with whether it's Chinese or Americans or Europeans, we have a clear sense of what we want from this engagement, because they are not coming here because they are Father Christmas. They are coming here because of what they want to serve their country's interest. So it's important that whether it's Ghana or it's Africa as a whole, we have a clear strategy towards engaging with these partners, and that should inform our positions in however we deal with them.
I see. Doc, we'll leave it here for now. Thank you so much. Dr. Patrick Esuming is an economist. He's been detailing and digesting the latest report presented to Congress about Chinese debt trap policies in African countries, including Ghana, and could be the reason that the IMF second tranche bailout has delayed.
We're taking you to Parliament right now because there were heated exchanges on the floor of Parliament about portions of the Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill following submissions from the Attorney General and the Constitutional and Legal Committees of Parliament. The contention revolves around whether Clause 4 of the bill contravenes with Article 39 of the Constitution and whether the word undermine in the bill is subjective and difficult to prove legally. The House has been working on the controversial bill at the consideration stage in Parliament. Let's take you to the legislature right now, where my colleague Duke Menso Poku has been monitoring proceedings there for us. Duke, talk to us. Exactly what were the concerns which were raised?
Well, Mawena, so Parliament has been meticulously, members of the House, even though many of them are in committee meetings, it's just a handful of them, not more than 10, on the floor working on the Human Sexual Rights and Proper Ghanaian Family Values Bill. The word proper actually has been amended.
Right.
The word proper has actually been amended, so now it's Human Sexual Values and Ghanaian Family Human Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill. Now, in the process of going through the amendments, the chairman of the committee drew the House's attention to the written opinion of the Attorney General on the bill, which is on the floor. The Deputy AG himself is on the floor of the House, pointing to the fact that Clause 4 of the bill, if when approved, will become Section 4 of the bill, contains certain portions which may contravene with Article 39 of the Constitution, which talks about cultural appropriateness. Now, Clause 4 of the bill, with your permission, if I may read my own,
right,
says that a person shall not A, undermine the proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill, directly or indirectly instigate, command, counsel, procure, solicit, or in any other manner purposely aid, facilitate, encourage, promote, whether by a personal act or presence or otherwise, an act that undermines the proper human sexual rights and Ghanaian family values. A person who contravenes paragraphs A and B of this subsection commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 1,000 penalty units and not more than 2,000 penalty units, or a term of imprisonment not less than 2 months,
Right, Duke.
and more than 4 months. So the
break
contention
it
is
all
that
down for
the
us.
word undermine. Yes, so the contention is that the word undermine, to prove an offense legally, that offense must have certain ingredients, right? Now, the contention of the Attorney General is that the word undermine is difficult to prove legally, and it's difficult to find evidence to prove that somebody is undermining the stated objectives in the bill.
Right.
So to be able to find the ingredients of the word undermine is subjective, and therefore he's asking that, and going further, it could also contravene with portions of Article 39 of the Constitution. And since our law provides that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and if any law contravenes it, that law becomes unconstitutional, he is advising that that clause should be removed.
Has progress been made on that front? What's been the decision of the House?
There has been other arguments from the likes of Harry Naidusu, Roxanne Dafian, and the rest on this bill. They are indicating that the word should be changed to something. There should be a reconstruction or a redrafting of the words in that clause. But the Speaker's decision is that that clause, that whole clause, should be stood down. It should be suspended for now, so that as they work through, there are also similar elements in clause 12 of the bill, so that they can marry the two and come to a certain agreeable end for the House to proceed on that basis.
Just briefly,
so these are some of the technical bits, yes, that they are working on.
Briefly, on other matters in the House, we know that ministries, departments, and agencies have been meeting various committees as well over budget estimates.
Yes, so as I speak to you, there are a number of the budget estimates that are ready. I've seen that of the National Media Commission. I've seen that of the Ministry of Roads. They've all been laid on the floor of the House, but they have not been taken yet. So not even one. So the process, what happens is that the estimates are brought, they are laid on the floor of the House. It is transferred to the committees to go and work on and meet the relevant agencies. This is where the relevant agencies defend their budget from the committee. After all, the report is brought back, and then arguments ensue and they are approved or disapproved. As we speak, not even one of the estimates has been approved. But there are a tall list of committee meetings that are going on currently, which has even affected attendance on the floor of Parliament itself. Because most of the MPs are in committees working on these estimates, Manuel.
Right then, Duke Mensah Opoku is my colleague from Parliament right now, providing details for us as to budget estimates and committee work, and also what appears to be disagreement over portions of the anti-LGBT bill, which is currently at the consideration stage. But still on a developing story this afternoon, and the conversation about Ghana's lithium discovery and the subsequent lease agreement with Barari DV Limited appears far from ending. Criticisms of the deal have been mounting amid government insistence it has cooked the best ever mining agreement in the history of the country. The latest is the position of the Christian Council and a member of the Council of State who are demanding parliamentary scrutiny over the deal.
The lithium agreement is not in the interest of Ghana. That's my view. And if you all agree with me, then let us make a statement in support of the IEA to say that we do not think that this agreement is in the interest of Ghana, and that we need to relook at this matter. Let us tell whoever is signing this document, and I don't even want to condemn our MPs, we will caution them and advise them to do what is what? Right.
We cannot, as a nation, sit down and let this also go down the drain and let people take it away for us to suffer, our people to suffer. I think that what we ought to do is to take this agreement, look at it critically, come out with what we would need. Just as a friend said, the 100% should be on the table. That this is what Ghanaians need. And then, when we are looking at it, it should inure to the benefit of Ghanaians.
But through it all, though, there appears a new perspective to the conversation as to whether Ghana has been shortchanged. Latest opinion by Fuichi Kata and Kofi Ansah, all experts in the extractives industry, argue Ghana will be the ultimate beneficiaries, in sharp contrast to prevailing opinions on the subject matter. Let's look at exactly the arguments they've been making. And so they've been, amongst many things, seeking to make suggestions as to improvements that could happen to the current deal as we have it. And what are the improvements they suggest? That government must insist on seeing provisions of offtake agreement in the sale of the lithium, because we know that there's a parent company to which the lithium which will be mined will be sold off to. They make the argument that the deal in its current state is good, but government must insist on seeing the provisions towards the off-taker. And then they make the argument as well that the government should engage commodities research companies for data on lithium prices because of the volatility of the market, which we've known about for quite a while. Now, on the last bit of improvement, they make the case strongly that government should insist on selling lithium to possible Ghanaian partners on prevailing world prices, because also per the agreement, as we've been made aware of, there's provision that either these Barari DV operates a processing of the lithium here in the country. If they don't have the capacity, any Ghanaian company that comes up with the capacity, they should sell off the lithium to them at world prices. Let's look to the disagreements they've made with current opinion on the Ghanaian media space. That arguments for a joint venture agreement or service contract instead of the leases or the lease or concession contract suffer from the error of promoting form over substance. That's one of the disagreements they make. And then to one of the big things that have come up, suggestions that the country will only be receiving 13% of lithium proceeds. The two argue that that's an argument in gross error, and that per their analysis, the government stands to benefit at least 51% of the available direct project monetary benefits, while the investors take 49%. And if you look at interest payment, taxes, and the likes, Ghana stands to benefit up to 51% from the agreements. That's the latest on the position. Well, there's been counter-argument already coming from Professor Ransford Jampo, who's making the argument that on, for instance, the argument on taxes, there's a 10-year tax exemption that's been granted to Barari DV. And so this argument, which has come up already, is defective. But a lot more that we'll continue to follow up on if you stay with us here on News Central and on TV3. We're back shortly with a bit more news. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Now, CEO of defunct gold dealership, Men's Gold, is back in court today. And Apia Mensah is facing charges of defrauding thousands of customers who invested their funds in his company. Michael Lord Edu Asare is joining us from the course with more. Good afternoon to you, Lord. What are we expecting to happen today?
Today's session of the trial of Nana Apia Mensah, the former Men's Gold boss, will be a closed session. This is known as the Case Management Conference. Now, during this session, lawyers of NAM1 prosecution will be meeting with the judge, and during this period or session, will know whether substantive evidence have been placed against NAM1, the number of witnesses that both counsels are expected to call. Do you recall that last week the plea of NAM1 was taken after the state preferred new charges against the former Men's Gold boss? So essentially, this is what we are expecting to happen here at the Accra High Court.
Lord, we'll keep an eye on that story. Thank you so much for the report. Now, on to some other matters. The cost of contesting elections in Ghana is still a major concern, as persons seeking to contest primaries in constituencies with sitting MPs of the governing NPP must pay at least 78,000 cedis. The party has, in a statement, announced guidelines ahead of its January 27th primaries. A quick run through the breakdown of the cost. We know that the price of nomination forms is 3,000 cedis, non-refundable filing fee of 35,000 cedis, and a non-refundable development fee of 40,000 cedis. A total of that being 78,000 cedis, and that is what you pay if you're contesting the primaries in a certain MP's constituency. 78,000 cedis. But let's have a quick chat on this. CDD fellow, Dr. John Osai Kwapong, is joining us more on this. Good afternoon to you, Doc. At least 78,000 cedis. Must this be a source of concern at all?
Yes. These filing fees are quite exorbitant. I mean, over time, you can see that they've been going up. But in defense of the political parties too, they have to organize these elections. They need a number of logistics across these constituencies with incumbent MPs to be able to conduct these elections. And those logistics cost money. We also don't have a, should I say, we don't have a system where people pay dues to the party, you know, in amounts where that can financially sustain the party.
Right.
Right. Which means that this becomes one of the key sources of revenue for the political party when it comes to
Indeed.
organizing these internal primaries. So it's a sort of a catch-22. On the one hand, you don't want the cost of filing a nomination to become an entry barrier for an aspiring member of parliament. But at the same time, you also have to understand that the political party needs to be able to finance
Right.
the administrative expenses that comes with organizing these internal elections. And so you can at least understand why sometimes they peg these amounts at the level that they do.
Catch-22 indeed, but how do we deal with this and find the fine line between the parties raising funds and not limiting people's interest to contest these constituencies?
Want to find ways to encourage party members not only to register to be card-carrying members, but to also regularly pay their dues. I mean, if you think of the number of votes that these parties get in elections, right? Even if 80% of them are your committed party members, I'm sure you can peg the party dues at a reasonable amount on either a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis, that if you also religiously encourage them to pay, that you can build a good enough, quote unquote, financial chest that allows you to be able to finance some of these operations. There are other activities that political parties can engage in, regular fundraisers, that also allows them to, improve their financial standing. I think those, if you are able to find creative ways of doing that, you can get the political party into a situation where it doesn't have to solely rely on these high nomination filing fees to be able to finance these activities like organizing a primary, which, to be honest, are very costly activities.
Doc, I'm grateful for your time here today. Dr. John Osai Kwapong there. And, well, the clock is ticking for those who intend to contest in the primaries coming up this December. Next year.
Well, we're staying on other matters for you this afternoon, where Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuah Yeboah says A decision to appeal the prison term and fine imposed on Aisha Juan is meant for a stiffer punishment, while applauding the efficiency of the justice delivery system witnessed in the trial of Aisha Juan. Mr. Chaibwa emphasized the move seeks to ensure the new sentencing regime imposed by Act 995 is applied to the accused person. He's been speaking exclusively to my colleague Christian Yale on the AG's ultimate goal in challenging the ruling.
I have insisted that the judge applied the law as it is. She couldn't have done anything differently from what she did. But law must always be developed. If we go up and the appellate courts come to the conclusion that maybe the meaning ascribed to a certain provision is not what it's supposed to be, then it may change the equation. But as we have it now, there's no change in decision. The judge has made a decision, but we still think that we must go up to look at some areas to see if there can be a change there.
So what is your ultimate goal? What do you seek to achieve in the long run?
If we go to the appellate court and the court looks at the various provisions, especially Article 19.6, and comes to a conclusion that if you are convicted for an offense now, you can be punished more than the existing sentence at the time that you committed the offense, it means that Aisha Juan will have to spend more years in imprisonment. But if the court has come to the conclusion that that provision is how we see it and there's no other meaning to it, then we will live by what we have now. The current regime, Act 995, is very punitive. Because under Act 995, if you are convicted and you were Ghanaian, the minimum is 15 years, maximum 25. If you're a foreigner, the minimum 20, maximum 25. So the current regime, very robust, and people have been convicted, including foreigners, who are now in prison, serving sentences from 15 to 25 years. It only is the case that in Aisha Juan's case, the incident happened in 2015 to 2017. That's why maybe the judge looked at the existing law and came out with this judgment.
Alfred Chaibwa is a Deputy Attorney General. When we return from this break, we're taking you a trip around the country in Regional Hub, and then on Ghana Remembers, we'll look at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Stay with us.
The increasing rate of student violence in Ghana's senior high schools has become a concern to parents and the society. Student riots have led to the temporary closure of some schools. The disturbing situation now calls for intervention that will change the attitude of these future leaders from going on the rampage when seeking solutions to their problems. Ibrahim Abubakar is now joining us from the Armed Forces Senior High School in Kumasi, where the National Youth Authority and Youth Without Borders Ghana are engaging with students on the use of democratic principles to address their grievances instead of resorting to violence and destruction of school properties. Ibrahim, good afternoon to you. How would you say things are shaping up so far?
Well, I can see that the students are responding to the messages because most of them were even asking questions. Some didn't even know that at this age, if you commit any offense, you can be arrested just like any other person. But, you know, we always talk about student violence. And in January this year in Ashanti region, students of the Korobia Asante Senior High School went on rampage, damaged school properties, just because they say their predecessors recorded poor results in the final examination. So the school had to be shut down. Wulugu Senior High School, similar one. Sandema Senior High School, students even had to burn down some portion of the school. And all these issues led to the temporary closure of the school. Many other students in senior high schools have been doing similar ones. So for the Youth Without Borders and National Youth Authority, these are future leaders, and this trend shouldn't continue because it has the tendency of affecting their future. So what they are doing is moving from school to school, just engaging students of the senior high school, just to tell them the danger of engaging yourself in violence,
see.
even whilst in school, and also the need to resort to dialoguing.
Of late, we have experienced this in many of our Ghanaian senior high schools, and we thought that it's becoming a pandemic sort of, especially in the Ashanti region. As students, we would want to grow up to be policemen, to be army officers, basically prominent people in society. But if we engage in these extremist activities, it wouldn't help us in bettering our future for ourselves and our family and Mother Ghana as a whole.
We've noticed recently the high level of senior high school violence is very disturbing. So we decided to take this initiative by visiting some senior high schools and educate them on how to voice out their grievances.
Well, interesting views from these participants. Ibrahim Abubakar brought us that report from the Armed Forces Senior High School there. But Mawenda, there's more in the Ashanti region. Reason why, Ibrahim, you hold the line for us.
Exactly, and that has to do with the Fulani community in Ghana, because they are disturbed over what they say is discrimination and atrocities committed against its tribesmen in some parts of the country. The community observes that their ethnic group has come under serious attack in recent times, with many losing their lives and livelihoods. Let's try and get an understanding as to why this is coming up again and in the Ashanti region. But first off, let's hear from the leadership over these concerns.
Fulanis have existed in this country before even the colonial masters arrived in this land called to Ghana. So we should stop that. Let's face forward. If we use the negativity to be positive things to the Fulanis cattle railing, I think it will benefit us. Today, I'll be hearing in the media that we are abandoning Yemadie. What is Yemadie? If we can establish very well, put good regulations about this cattle railing, I think they don't need even to even import a meat, talk less of Yemadie. The Yemadie is with us. Why are we importing Yemadie? It's because we are neglecting a certain profession that it can help the nation, and that is what is happening today. So we want inclusiveness. Let's forget about being a Fulani, being a Konkomba, being a Dagomba. That discrimination should stop. And then our forward. How can you say because I'm a Fulani, I'm not a Ghanaian or I'm not a citizen? So you mean no Fulani should supposed to be a citizen of this country? The second lady is there. She's a citizen. You can't tell her that she's a foreigner. She's a Fulani. Yesterday, you see the Fulani. You see
Ibrahim right now. Ibrahim, what is informing this latest concern again by the leadership of the Fulani community?
Well, Mauna, they feel they have been attacked unnecessarily. Just some few months ago, 9 Fulani members were killed in their hometown, and people tag them because for them, just like any ethnic group, we have elements of criminals even within the Fulani. But hardly will you hear a criminal's names being mentioned and they attach the ethnic group or tribe with it. But anytime to them we talk about a criminal who is from the Fulani group, then we are quick to add the Fulani. And this to them is creating discrimination against them and also causing public disaffection to them. And they feel that, well, if an individual who is a Fulani commits a crime, the person must be dealt with as an individual, not associating it with the entire ethnic group, just like we do to others. And like we said, they were talking about, for them, anytime they even go to secure passport and Ghana card, they face that challenge. They are being told they are not Ghanaians, when in fact, most of them have lived here before independence. And the constitutions clearly say that if you are here before independence, or if one of your parents is a Ghanaian, then you also automatically qualify to be a Ghanaian. Right. They don't understand why those discrimination. They want that to end and accepting them as they are.
Rather than Ibrahim, as always, providing details for us from the Ashanti region.
Lesson attention to road crashes. Speeding leads as the main cause of accidents in this country. The National Road Safety Authority says it is piloting a system for the deployment of speed cameras to check the menace. According to Head of Regulation, Inspection and Compliance of the authority, Kwame Kodua-Chiahene, speeding drivers will be issued tickets as best practice. I'll bring you that sound clip a little later in this broadcast. But you're here on News Central. Let's take a listen to Chiahene now.
On our part, we are working with the police to increase their visibility. The police have been talking about speed cameras for some time. It is our expectation that in this period, the speed cameras will be deployed. I can report to you that some of the speed cameras have been deployed on moving vehicles, as far as and as much as those that have been installed at some designated locations. We are hoping that the first tickets will be issued over the period, and so drivers should be on the lookout. For every vehicle leaving the terminals we consider major terminals over the period, our inspectors, road safety inspectors, will be there to carry out the pre-departure check that the vehicles have the requisite, in requisite condition. They have logbooks. Those doing in excess of 500 kilometers have 2 drivers assigned to the trip. And in some cases, we may find a necessity to deploy mystery passengers just to be sure that what the drivers promise us to do will be done in order that we can keep our people safe. We are hoping that within the Christmas period, when the speed cameras are activated on a pilot basis, the expectation is to issue some dummy tickets, just to send a signal that we are watching their behavior.
You're live on News Central. When we come back, Ghana remembers.
In 2017, Ghana's parliament made history when it passed the Office of the Special Prosecutor Bill. The nation's hope of a truly independent investigative agency was further heightened with the appointment of Martin Alamisi Amidu as Ghana's first ever special prosecutor.
Once confirmed by Parliament, will carry an extraordinary responsibility, independently and impartially, to fight corruption. The Special Prosecutor, as the Act states in its preamble, and I quote, shall have full authority and control over the investigation, initiation, and conduct of proceedings of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses involving public officers and politically exposed persons.
Well, Mr. Amidu resigned and accused the government of stifling his work. A new special prosecutor, Kisie Jabin, took office, promising to suppress corruption.
I am going to work assiduously, with deliberation, to suppress and repress corruption. I said 2 weeks ago at Parliament that I will not be naive to assume that I am coming to stop corruption. It is innate in humans. But as much as possible, my office is going to drive it down and repress it to its barest minimum.
But how has the office fared 5 years since it effectively became operational? Let's walk you through the timelines. And in 2017, like we've been telling you, the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act was passed in Parliament. In January 2018, the first ever Special Prosecutor, Martin Amidu, was appointed as Ghana's first Special Prosecutor. Between that period, he resigned, and in 2021, Kisie Jabin was sworn in as the country's new Special Prosecutor. But in August 2022, the new Special Prosecutor goes on to withdraw one of 2 cases being prosecuted In terms of finances, between 2020 and 2023, 20.2 million cedis have been spent by the office on compensation, goods and services, and capital expenditure. The office is still in search of its first conviction and has so far managed to recover just 1 million cedis. Has the perception of corruption in Ghana improved between this period? Let the data speak for itself. Well, the data, according to Transparency International, shows that Ghana's performance has stagnated. When the OSP Act was passed in 2018, the nation had scored 41 out of a possible 100, which signifies that a country is quite clean from corruption. Despite reaching a score of 43 in 2020, this has since remained the same. The current special prosecutor is also facing major challenges with unfavorable court judgment, pointing out that there is doom ahead.
I wasn't sounding as a prophet of doom, but there is doom looming ahead of us. That very soon, the murderer will boldly walk to court to seek an injunction. Should I feel frustrated and resign? I took an oath when I was sworn in. And in my life, when I take on the reins to do something, I do it to the best of my ability. They say I'm a unkwanoma. Me de me kra abo afore. Me ye de me to me.
Well, that's the story of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. 5 years, no convictions, and just 1 million cedis in recoveries. That's it for Ghana Remembers. Kameni.
Away from that, Registrar of Scholarship Secretariat, Dr. Kingsley Agyeman, has called for the establishment of reading clubs in various schools across the country. This, he says, will address challenges faced by pupils.
Kingsley Quizzes, in collaboration with the Abuakwa South Municipal Assembly, has organized a reading competition for the pupils in the municipality. The objective of this exercise is to offer pupils in the area the needed skills in reading. Speaking at the program, the Registrar of the Scholarship Secretariat, Dr. Kingsley Agyeman, believes the initiative should be sustained to aid the pupils in the municipality.
I'm reliably informed that the reading clubs have been formed in all schools, from KG1, KG2, Class 1, that now it's now called Basic 1, Basic 2, and Basic 3. We have to catch them young. We have to nurture the seeds of tomorrow. Whatever we are putting in now, we'll reap it one day. It is not a far-fetched venture. It is not something that we are doing it for the cameras. No, the readathon has come to stay. Everyone at all levels has been catered for.
Meanwhile, the Municipal Education Director, Comfort Euphoria Pia, says her outfit will ensure the confidence of pupils in the area is boosted with such interventions.
As a directorate, we are saying this is not an event where today we've ended everything, and the teachers and the head teachers, they are aware. It will be a continuous something where we will task them, the 21 schools that took part in this contest, that on Fridays where they are supposed to have club and society meetings, they should organize the contest at class level within the schools, just to boost their morale and also give them that exposure.
After the over 21 schools were assessed on word spelling, reading proficiency, reading comprehension amongst others, Kibi Ebenezer Presbyterian School won the Grade 3 contest, while Kibi MA Experimental also emerged winners of the Grade 2 quiz. The participating schools were provided with educational materials, among other prizes.
Well, good thing for those children, you know.
Yeah.
Reading is important.
Most important
Yeah.
because it helps you greatly, a great deal if
Absolutely,
you're able to
opens
read
your
well.
mind and
Yeah.
it makes you speak great as well because you learn new vocabulary anytime you read.
Well, it's evident you're a great reader. It's really evident.
We're out of here. I'm Kemi Niamano.
And I am Marvin Egbert. As always, a lot more news will log on to 3news.com.